So, hello everyone again in the podcast Tech Talks, when I invite very interesting people from the IT space and people who change the world and also have good opinions about different topics. Today, I would love to introduce you, Zoltán. Zoltán, if you can introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and where are you based right now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Nice to having here. My name is Zoltán. I'm based in Copenhagen. I like that you put that the title on me, like a strategic consultant architect. That's actually pretty much describing what I'm doing. I'm an engineer from the start, so I have engineering background, software development background, but long time I'm doing architecture, strategic consultancy. Nowadays, I'm working for a company called Soprasteria, which is a digital transformation consulting company, and I'm by title doing enterprise architecture and helping different customers and different digitalization projects on architecture. That's what I'm doing right now.
So what are the problems you solve most? Do you create architecture from scratch, or do you jump into existing projects and fix them somehow?
I would say that it's a high range of projects and high range of customers. We have different industries, different customers. So my expertise is transformation or kind of change projects, typically agile change or some kind of technology or platform change. So that's usually I'm involved. Sometimes you can call them greenfield, but enterprises, corporations in the finance sector or other industries or public sector, they already have some legacy. So mostly my involvement right now is dealing with legacy and how we can get the answers from this urging digitalization questions, especially after and in between Corona, that the people want digital solution more and more automation. They had the projects, but how they can make it faster, how they can make it more effective, how they can make it work with this more remote work environment. So these are the projects I'm mostly involved. And this is different architecture. Sometimes it's application architecture, sometimes it's integration mostly, or data, or organizational architecture. I call them when I'm architecting organizations. So when you need to introduce, for example, platformication or that kind of things. Okay. So these are the projects are involved.
Interesting. And what I've noticed recently is that there are many companies that have created the software, I don't know, 20 years ago, the first one, and they build on top of that. And suddenly we have the pandemic, which hits hard. So, and people realize that, whoa, maybe it's time to go to microservices, use Kubernetes and so on. And on top of that, of course, we have AWS and Google Cloud. Everyone is pushing cloud. And I have a feeling that multiple companies are being a bit lost due to the speed of those changes and pressure from competitors. Plus the old world doesn't exist anymore, or it still exists like a huge monolith, and now they want to make it more manageable, use different technologies, and it's quite challenging for companies while they have also issue with finding good software engineers, and shortage of developers is obvious in multiple countries, and the good ones especially, because you won't get, you won't give to the project like guy who has 1 or 2 years experience in JavaScript to, I don't know, maintain and grow your system, which was there for like 20 years. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge in those cases?
I think I would say that the challenge, you can say the challenge is expertise or available expertise, but more like I think if you look at from the software development perspective, that kind of adaptation that you have, for example, a classical traditional IT organization, and now you decided some point of time 2-3 years ago on an agile transformation. So you created some sort of an agile release train or a Spotify model or whatsoever, and then the developer is getting the autonomy, but you still need to maintain that kind of synergy in your company. So you don't want to create multiple companies inside your company. You still want to be the company. You have a value proposition to your customers. And then this autonomous teams start developing everywhere. And of course, the technology is rapidly changing. So people are looking everywhere, and maybe there is different ways of solving a problem. And then you just, so even though you try to do something, you try to enable development or your development to be faster, but then you're creating even more complexity. And here I think architecture has a really important role. But also there's a challenge. If you look at from architecture point of view, you cannot take the classical traditional architecture point of views that you're centralizing, for example, and taking snapshots, because then it also hinders. So I think the challenges are we have the good old habits in software already. I would say that in software development, which is like not an old profession, but we have the bad habits and we're trying to apply them, even though we're saying we're changing some part of it. And that's where I would say architecture is a very interesting situation right now, because we architects, we have the possibility of the overview, of the oversight, and the influence, but we shouldn't be the ones who are hindering, for example, that flexibility what developers need with automation, automating of their operations and DevOps and all these things, microservices. So these kind of things, what we have to embrace. So there's a very fine balance. And I think there's a very big responsibility for architecture to get there and not hinder it. So not being relevant, I would say, instead of being the ones, oh, these architects, you know, this, you have heard it many times. Oh yeah, we have to have a sign from an architect. Yes. Oh, we have to wait for architecture. They are drawing, but we all know what we have to do. We are the developer. I think that's a challenge right now. We have changed the roles, we have changed the names, and architecture has to live up for that. And developers also should be able to understand that there's a saying that some planning is necessary. So I mean, and there where the architects can really help.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think, let's talk about the future shortly, because I know that we had the discussion on LinkedIn. You are posting some posts about low-code, no-code solution, and I'm trying to look into the future in 5-10 years, and looking into the challenges we have, like constant change and lack of, I mean, developers, there won't be enough. We see this move that there will be shortage. How can companies deal with the future? What do you think will be the next, I don't know, trend in IT in 5-10 years? And will we address the problems we have right now? Like, what's your opinion on that? And then we will jump to no code a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I mean, that's a broad thing. I'm not a wizard to look into that. I would just use my experience, and then here I can be the grumpy old guy who is telling you, yeah, I've seen this many times and the pattern is there. I would say that I think I also read others talking about right now. Sometimes you hear that software 2.0, and one of the go-to conferences, Linda Lukias, who is she's a really nice presenter, and she's working with this kind of. She said at some point of time that the future is kind of, you're not a coder, but you are training software. So you're a trainer, yes? So when we look at this way, that the software and the software generated software or machine learning, these kind of things, or software 2.2, I think this is some answer for the future. Again, there are no silver bullets. So that's also a problem with us software developers or architects. We're always looking at the next ultimate solution. So I think what is happening right now, we had this software thingy, programming, and we've tried to apply to everywhere. And then we're realizing slowly that there's a huge amount of data, which is exponentially growing. So we need other techniques, other tooling. You need some kind of machine learning. You need some kind of other theories you apply. And I think this is where we are heading. And with the abstraction, with architecture, we are also smarter and smarter how we abstract the problems. And this is, for example, low code, no code is just another level of abstraction. And they are giving us a lot of opportunity. Yes, as you say that, answering some of the problems, leveraging other people's expertise to do coding. The same is with with machine learning and mathematics. I think, and I would say to everybody who is looking into IT and trying to do some coding, doesn't matter which way we go and how we do, there are some things which is still there, the fundamentals, the fundamental theory of mathematics, set theory, graph theory, all this mathematical foundation of programming. And I think if we are building that everywhere, then doesn't matter what comes up, so we can still tackle the problems. I see many times I'm reaching back to my math books to solve problems. I mean, really, from uni to apply problems instead of just looking the next fancy code, because then the next framework's coming, the next wave of abstraction is coming, but you can still understand what's happening because you some sort of still grasp on the behind the scene. So what I would say, if it's not going to wizardry, it's not going to be magic, software development is not magic, then we are in good. If it's coming to magic, so we are in a huge risk that it's a few people will we do something without we know what's happening really behind. So
Okay.
I think the future is like more abstraction, this kind of software written code and software evaluated code. I see a really big movement, just like reviewing code automatically. I think it's a huge potential there. And then classical coding is, I don't see it goes until we have some kind of new paradigm. Like, I don't know how to program a quantum computer. I'm not that expert, but maybe that brings some new problems.
Last question, should everyone code? And how would you convince people to start digging into the topic?
Everybody should has digital knowledge. Coding is one way of doing it. I think not coding is not for everyone. It's like you need. It's like I cannot play piano, so it's like. True. So I mean, but what I said is the fundamentals like okay, how this works or how this relates. I think it's very important for the greater good. So we are, as a society, we're very conscious about understanding what is data privacy. I think, for example, the biggest big challenge right now, what is data privacy? An average person who is not living in this IT world, what is data? Can you explain? I mean, it could be very hard for me, not IT people, normal people who are doing their jobs and understanding why it's severe to debate consciousness. But if you understand the concepts, how this flows, for example, the concept of a data flow, how these things connected, how the internet works, how the people making business about this whole IT thing, for example. And if you understand just that partially, you don't understand how your phone connects to how you make a call.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think that's important. And of course, then there will be people who are interested more deeper, so they learn coding or they just learn training an algorithm. Maybe you don't want to understand how that algorithm works, you just want to leverage that.
Yes.
Like making art from neural networks. I think it's a fascinating thing, people doing stuff like that, like in the old days in the demo scene. Yes, when we just did demos because we can. I mean, it was no purpose, it was just nice. We did because we can.
I guess it requires only one skill, curiosity. I mean, it's not a skill, but the attitude. So you have to be curious and constantly ask questions, see that things go digital even on a daily basis. We use more and more interfaces, more devices, there's more software, and even if you look at IoT and so on, it's constantly evolving. And if you're not curious, of course, you might be the end user who feels that, okay, I know the pattern, I know how to use this coffee machine, even if it has this huge screen, like the Tesla, we have this huge big screen, and it's designed for the people who feel fine about using it without huge trainings and so on. But on the other side, some people will ask, okay, so how does it work? How they replace the wheel and all of the stuff with the design, the screen, and the magic behind? How does that work? And
yeah, I would say also curiosity. Other thing is like able to absorb, because I think one thing, not everybody wants that curious. You just want to live your life. You have other things. You have other priorities. But the other thing is as absorb. You are able to absorb these things, and also there are people who are not just curious but willing to share. So I think it's also kind of back to software development. So the arrogance of IT maybe should be a little bit of pulled down and saying that we have to help in this digitalization. So as an architect, you ask me projects. So many times the project is more like an empathy journey than a solution journey to convince people around this is what we are doing. For example, repeating the purpose and asking so many times in middle of a project, middle of a crisis, of a production crisis, why we are so reluctant to solve this problem. What is actually we want to solve? Is it that button has to be clicked or fixed, or there is something? And then when you realize that purpose or something different, yes, so then it's much easier, because then we can pull together. So great software is one thing, team is another thing, but purpose. So you ask these things, and then that's the combination. And all in the technology. I mean, we work in the technology. I work in the technology, so I'm just talking about that. But I think that's where it goes. When you ask, everybody should code, everybody should ever and work with it. We cannot avoid anymore. I mean, it's too much deep. inside.
Okay.
Everything.
Thank you. I think I really like the final conclusion about the purpose, because it's everywhere. So if people don't understand why they fix legacy code, why they use no code, without the purpose, without understanding the context of the situation and why am I here and why am I using those tools, they are hammers or screwdrivers. They do something someone asked them to do, but they won't make an impact. They won't learn, because there is not enough curiosity without the context.
And the options are so broad. Yeah, so it's like you can always, it's an infinite discussion. For example, in software architecture, which framework we use, which tool we use. You can always pick up a new one, a next one, or an old one, and say that this is what it's like. It's an infinite loop of talking about that. As a software developer, you might realize that which one, and you're in that locking state, deadlock, that okay, should I do this and this and this and this? I mean, and then it's you just move on. And another thing I think is very important now, you have the luxury, we can just try and move on. So all the methodology in software development, all this engineering, be improved and implemented. It's like it's not expensive to do software. Sure. Software is soft. And now it's really soft. I mean, that means then if you change your mind, you change. So it's not like, oh, we have chosen this framework, so we have to live with it for the next 10 years. No, you don't. You just make your software architecture like that way, then you can switch. Okay. Of course, it has a cost, but then you can make an argument to your stakeholders. Okay, that cost is there, but there's the value about it, or whatever. There's the improvement about it. So it's easier, it's much easier than like 10, 15 years ago when it was an investment, yes? Because you needed to land a huge hardware data center and everything, and then experts coming in and installing and configuring, and everybody just, sure. Now finally it's working, don't touch it. I mean, continuous integration, continuous delivery, it's all about that. You can change. I mean,
yeah, exactly. You go with the flow. There are some
change. I mean,
questions, answers, and you have to adapt, and it makes the project a bit dynamic, but also people feel that they contribute and they have some impact on things, and then just follow orders. All right, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I hope our audience will also like it. And I think we covered a few questions about the architecture, no code, the future of software development. It was a pleasure to host you, and let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.